In this episode of Art Loft, we present painter Barry Gross.
It's an energy that guides. So that's the energy of survival.
The short film, Solitude, Darkness, Light. And meet and greets at the Wynwood Walls.
You'll see all sorts of things. A lot of ballerinas come through here, wedding photos.
It's all ahead in this episode of Art Loft. Funding for Art Loft is made possible by Friends of Art and
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
This project is sponsored in part by the State of Florida, Department of State, Division of Cultural Affairs, and the Florida Council on Arts and Culture. Hi, I'm Lolo Ruskin, and from the Wynwood Walls in Miami, this is Art Loft. Welcome to the Wynwood Walls. Miami's recently been named one of the most Instagrammed cities in the world, and a large part of that is definitely due to all the beautiful murals here in this neighborhood. We're here today with Chantel Rodriguez, who's representing Wynwood Walls, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about what makes this neighborhood so special. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, how long have you been with Wynwood Walls?
I've been working with them over a year.
Okay, awesome. And tell us a little bit about kind of what, the expanse of Wynwood Walls and what some of the most popular art pieces here are.
Well, the Wynwood Walls is ever changing. We've expanded a little bit every year. You're standing in the garden, which is probably the most recent expansion. In 2015, we opened the garden area and the GGA Gallery, which opened last December. And I'd say the most impressive mural is probably the Pichiavo containers behind us, and people just love it because of the different format. It's not on a building, it's these containers we brought in. And I'd say one of the most iconic is the Shepherd Ferry mural at the entrance. It's the first thing you see, and it's a kind of a tribute to Tony Goldman, the founder of the Wynwood Walls.
Yeah, one of the architects of the whole neighborhood.
Yes.
So, yes, you've got probably like 3 different kind of big courtyards around here. People are free to walk around. They can interact with some of the art. There's rocks to stand on and benches and things. And so obviously people take a lot of pictures here. What's some of the funniest things you've seen?
Well, you see a lot of acrobatics, especially taking place in front of this case mural behind you. You'll see all sorts of things. A lot of ballerinas come through here, wedding photos. The other day we captured a couple doing their wedding photos with a Darth Vader masks on and a Star Trooper. So it was pretty interesting every day here. You know, people love taking their selfies and getting that opportunity in that moment because the walls are ever changing, they're impermanent. So they want to capture that moment in real time, and when they come back a year later, it might not be there.
Right, they can take a whole new set of selfies then.
Exactly.
So do you guys have anything fun lined up for Art Basel?
Yeah, we have a new program. It's called Humankind. Really trying to put some emphasis on humanity, being part of humankind. You have to be human and kind. In this day and age, there's a lot going on.
I like that.
So that's our message, and we invited 12 new artists to paint. They'll start this week, and they'll be creating new murals.
That's excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It was great, and we're going to take a look around. It's so inspiring to be around all of this amazing artwork. There's really no limit to what paint can do. Our next segment features Fort Lauderdale-based artist Barry Gross. Join us as we take a look at some of the personal motivations behind his striking paintings.
While doing a story on the Sailboat Bend Artist Colony in Fort Lauderdale, I met painter Barry Gross and found in him an instant connection. I admired how he thinks about art, and I was fascinated by his paintings. And while it took some time, I was able to convince him to talk to us about his journey through his art and illness.
The Phantom must have invisibly come to my service last night and implanted a device to alleviate some of the pain and fatigue. I awoke feeling slightly better than okay. I have no idea what or how the universe's energy infiltrates the body and activates neurons and puppet strings at once. Today, for the first time in a while, it's not bad in the ozone. I feel like I'm in a time warp, never processing that I might really paint again.
So, Barry, the journal entries that we're referencing were written over an 8-month period, and during that time you completed this painting. And to me, the journal entry that we just had, it seems as though life was just bearable, barely bearable for you. What were you facing health-wise during that time?
Okay, I've been HIV positive for over 30 years, and the illness connects with the work that I'm doing. So what's kind of coming out is what happened during that 8 months of me building up this painting, and how my health was interconnecting with the painting, which I didn't even know I was doing, which is pretty incredible. You know, that all of a sudden it all coordinates. Another male image, sitting position, head slightly tilted upward. His legs are close to his chest, one arm holding his legs close. To the side of him, a wood puppet lying on the floor in a fetal position. In the far background will be a sphere, and from the bottom of the sphere, one lightning bolt will be released. Dimensional, surreal, magic, and the unknown. I'll try to make the work look otherworldly. For the life of me, I can't understand why I haven't given up. Today was okay, but the rash on my legs is getting worse. Still have the lightheaded feeling and can't sleep at night. The tip of my tongue feels like sandpaper. This is a slow, horrible death, and I don't have the nerve to seek out some morphine and OD. These new meds are doing me in big time. Yet I began a new drawing for a painting. I figure I could do nothing every day while I have limited energy, or I can kick ass and paint something I believe worthwhile. It's that simple. I wish I could find a way for mercy.
So, Barry, as I read through these entries, I was inspired by the fact that you can make these humongous comebacks. You described one day that you're pretty much at your worst. You feel like you're dying a slow and painful death, and then the very next day, you are talking about new drawings, starting a new painting, that you're inspired to keep moving forward and you're not going to lay down and let this thing beat you. How is it that art works for you as your medium of comeback? How do you come out of those lows to the highs using art?
I think that art has the ability within its creation to just keep you going. You want to survive because there's something in your life to survive for. If it's a parent, they're surviving for their child. For me, it's the art. Just my imagination coming to paint, there's a connection with the life of the painting and the life within myself. That's the thing every morning, to get up and work to the best of my ability. Sometimes I might be so exhausted so I can't paint, and I might do research or something, and I might even do more research for the painting, which then it generates something more. Sometimes I'll go to the painting and I'll say, oh, I have to do this in this. And it's just, it's an energy that guides. So that's the energy of survival for me. I finally began the painting, and it's coming out much better than I thought. The colors I mixed this time are very similar, but the light flesh tones have a hint more blue. Once I get the whole first coat on, I can glaze it however I choose. The texture and marks I've made are quite nice. The last 2 days have been quite good. My skin is looking better and not getting any more outbreaks of pimple marks, and the others are blending into the skin better. I still had to take a break, but I painted about 4 hours.
When I read that entry, I thought, I wonder if you realized that as you were starting to progress with the painting, that the things that you were positive about in the painting and that were changing in the painting itself were things that were improving for you yourself. You talked about choosing the skin tone of the male figure of your painting and then your skin improving. Did you realize that at the time, that you had this parallel?
Yeah, I was totally unaware of that until we started having conversations. That's the beauty of the art and connection people make to things that they do in life. It amazed me when you brought that to my attention, and I'm looking and I'm saying the flesh tones are changing, and so is my skin. It was amazing to me. And who knows if these things interconnect and affect each other without us even knowing. What if that really is a reality, that our consciousness affects what we do in life? I know that it does in my work. Painting has taken a life of its own. Began glazing the puppet and the ground around it. It's alive, and the earth started to separate and form pockets as if breaking apart. The piece looks like the Twilight Zone, surreal, mystical, apocalyptic, and I'm just enthralled with it. Have no idea where it will take me. Painted, and happy I did. At first I felt like it was going to be one of those days that I thought would be irrevocably negative, but to my amazement, the figure is just developing poetically beautiful. The painting is now very mysterious. As dark as it is, that's how much it glows. It's just exquisite to me. It might be another week before I finish. If this is to be my last large piece, I'm extremely proud of it. Someone wrote, "Modern master Barry Gross paints with a voice like thunder and rain." The painting is finished.
After rereading the entries and remembering what was going on with you then at the time, how do you feel today about this painting?
I can look at this and I see the sensitivity in the face, the wonderment in the face, looking up into the universe. I can look at the puppet and see the sensitivity in the puppet. I look at it as a sense of peace, but I look at both of these images together and they just relate. It's just very peaceful. And then when I look at the upper portion where it looks apocalyptic, it looks like new universes. It looks like maybe it's not Earth, maybe it's a dream, maybe it's another place, maybe my imagination has gone to a place that's pretty incredible. So I love this, and I love the cracks in the foreground, and there's a little section which I don't know if you can see, but there's water. Water is how we start. So the painting is just a total progression of mind and space, and it's, to me, very intriguing.
Barry, what would you like others to learn about this window into your life?
Well, it's not just my window. it's the world's window. You know, we have to open up and observe other people. We can't be afraid of everything. And just believe in your instinct. Believe in what people are telling you, and whether you can use it or not use it. It's okay, whatever choice you make. So the window is to believe in yourself, and wherever it goes, it's okay.
Red helicopter. We go straight up, whirring like a dragonfly, elevator to the sky. We wear headphones, sit in the back seat, he and I, while in front, Brad and Tiffany, 20-something, point, lean, cry, look, a shark, see him? And swing the chopper down. The Rolling Stones on our headsets, get off of my cloud, the loud, familiar beat of 1969. And we're way up among clouds and air, grinning into the wind. Down there, a ray flips in thin shallows. We fly up green channels between mangroves to the blue rim of the Gulf, back over our island's geography, across roofs and streets, royal poincianas flaring like bonfires. I hadn't known I wanted this, to fly, to rise up, look down on where I live. Island, city, house, all mine, yet also borrowed, thrown here like dice. To be shown our whole chance existence here and what it's like to leave it, to spin in air and cloud, caught in the rough music of my generation. How I became Poet Laureate? Well, it was rather a surprise, but I was invited by the acting head of the Poetry Guild in Key West at the moment to take over from, we've had a Poet Laureate for 2 years, and she said, would I be the next one? And I said, well, I'm very honored, yes, sure, thank you. I'm originally from England, and then I lived in Scotland for quite a long time, and I came to Key West 22 years ago, and I've lived in this house for 20 years. Met my husband, and you know, the rest is history. So it's a pretty wonderful place to live, actually, and when you've spent most of your life in Britain feeling cold, it's very nice to be here, even though it gets hot. But partly because I met my husband here, obviously, and we decided to get married, so I moved here.
Up next, we have the short film Solitude, Darkness, and Light, which was commissioned by the National Young Arts Foundation on the theme of transformations.
I'm not unwell. It just feels like a nothingness.
We're so lucky to have artist Isabella dos Santos here with us today to talk about the film. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more about this film and how it came to be.
So National Young Arts Foundation, Young Arts, they have an amazing pool of alumni in all disciplines. They put out an open call. They were trying to celebrate their 35th anniversary as an organization, which is amazing. So they had this topic of transformations. They picked 15 different artists of all different disciplines and grouped them together into 5 different groups of 3. Okay. So I was lucky enough to be chosen for one of those, myself as an animator, particularly with a filmmaker, Kayla Briette, and a photographer, Thomas Carr, and all 3 of us are alumni of the National Young Arts Foundation at different times. So we came together with our different perspectives of transformations as well as our different art forms, and had to come up with a film. We got a budget from Young Arts and a deadline. Great. Put it together.
That sounds really cool. What was your specific sort of role in the production?
We all went out into the field together to see what would come of it, because we're all slightly experimental filmmakers. And I actually ended up in the film myself as a performer. I dance on the side.
Oh, cool.
Not a professional dancer by any means, but we incorporated some movement parts to it. And then afterwards, once Kayla had edited all of that with Thomas's photography and her own music, I added animated elements on top of that. And I also wrote a voiceover track of something that I had written to go on top of the film.
So it sounds like it was a true collaboration and everyone kind of played a lot of different roles in this production.
Yes, and that's really how Young Arts plays a lot. It's all about interdisciplinary collaboration, everyone just like being an artist in their most free and like possible form.
Excellent. Well, it sounds great, and we're about to watch the film, so here is Solitude, Darkness, and Light. Enjoy.
You ask me how I'm doing, but it's one of those times when I hesitate too much before responding, because my thoughts are in a taffy pulling machine. I can't pinpoint anything definite enough to really identify how I'm doing. To say I'm doing well or any certain way, and to mean it, there would be things. There would be snapshots, concrete moments. But what about when things are just unfolding, shifting endlessly, aimlessly for the time? I'm not unwell. It just feels like a nothingness. But I want to be comfortable with this space, this in-between. To face it with confidence. Identify with that unidentifiable space. So you don't think less of me for being nothing in particular. So I don't think less of myself for being nothing in particular. Can I stay morphing, undone? Can I, as in, is it possible? And would we let me? And would we let me?
Thanks again for joining us on this episode of Art Loft. You can connect with us anytime online on social media at Art Loft SFL. For Art Loft, I'm Lolo Ruskin, and I'll see you next time. Funding for Art Loft was made possible by Friends of Art and
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
This project is sponsored in part by the State of Florida, Department of State, Division of Cultural Affairs, and the Florida Council on Arts and Culture.